Hi, and welcome to the next episode. If you happen to get all the way through the last one, you'll know what we're going to do today. But looking at the statistics, that's only about 10 people. So I'll give you a quick introduction. We're going to do a Google autocomplete episode, mainly because they seem to be quite popular at the moment, and I thought it might be fun to do. So on the side here, I have Julian, who some of you might recognize as from editing certain things over on Simon's channels. So he's going to ask me some questions. We're going to start by Googling how do blind people and then go through each letter of the alphabet. I'll answer the questions and we'll just have a bit of a back and forth. We'll see how we get on. Do you want to say hi, Julian?
Hello. And it's about 1 p.m. my time here as we're starting this, and I'm having a beer. So I don't know if you're drinking. Because I think it's close to 9 p.m. for you?
Yeah, it's 9 o'clock here. I showed you that nice bottle of cider I had in the fridge, but I left it in the fridge. So I I have a coffee, which is ever so slightly Irish, with some Cavassier in it, which is nice.
I grew up with it, and I just cannot handle Cavassiers in the least. I'm a whiskey man, Scotch particularly, so... I hear Cavassier, I'm like, ugh. That just reminds me of a lot of very sick mornings.
Yeah, it does provide a rather special hangover. It's what I had in the cupboard. So
cupboard at the office, or did you bring it with you?
Yeah. But it was in my bag a while ago, and I took it out at the office and left it in the office cupboard. I thought maybe I'd need it on an occasion such as this. And yeah, turns out that I was right.
Didn't think I was the only one with the bottle of whiskey in the office. Got one just right next to my foot. All right, so we're gonna do this google.com, and I'm gonna put in how do blind people, and then I'll go with a letter. We'll start with A, and I'll read them off to you. You just want the top one, or you want to do a couple of these per letter?
Yeah, we'll go with the top one. I guess some of them will probably overlap. So people are asking the same thing in different ways. So if you come across anything like that, just skip down a bit, or just pick whatever one you think is the best question, I guess.
Okay. That's mighty brave of you. Okay. How do blind people A? Okay. The first one is how do blind people adapt? So that's a very broad question.
Yeah, I think it's different for different people, because I was born with the sight condition I have. I have lost it a little bit over the years, but it's pretty stable. So I guess I didn't really adapt in the sense of the word, as I think that question means. I just kind of grew up with it, so I didn't know any different. When other people were learning to do handwriting, I was learning Braille and touch typing, so I didn't really have to adapt as such. But for those who have had sight and lost it, that's a much steeper curve, I would think.
It's going to be weird one day when we can rebind vision for people who were born blind, because I'm willing to bet the stuff that you kind of imagine doesn't look like that in real life.
Here's the thing. I don't imagine how stuff looks, because the part of my brain that processes imagery doesn't really do that much, because it only works with the images that I have, which is just light and dark and shadow. So visual imagination isn't really a thing for me.
I mean, that makes sense. And as for a sighted person, that sounds wild. That's gonna keep me up at night.
Wait till we get to dreaming. I bet that's on that.
Well, that'd probably be in the D's. I'm gonna note that. We're gonna circle back around to to blind dreaming. There's a second one on here for the A's that actually, it's a cheat, but it's probably a good one to answer. How do blind people and deaf people communicate? I wanted to truncate that to how do blind and deaf people communicate?
With a great deal of difficulty. It's very, very socially awkward. For me anyway, if I meet a deaf person, I can't sign, and even if I could, it would just be the equivalent of me having a one-way conversation. Obviously, a lot of deaf people can't speak, and that's much easier. But no, that's a difficult barrier to cross, unfortunately, if a blind person comes to somebody who can only sign.
So even with modern tech, does it make it any easier? Kind of like,
oh, dude, no, yeah, of course we could just text.
It would just be, well, it's not that much dissimilar from having dinner with someone in modern day with the phone out, is it? I was actually with my wife and kid the other day, and we're sitting at a restaurant, like purely silent, and I was just thinking, wait a minute, it's quiet. And I look up from my phone, and she's on her phone, and my daughter is on a phone. And I was like, this is that dystopian future we were all imagining.
You went out for a nice family meal, and you just like.
I mean,
just not even talking.
We had just cleaned the house, and I didn't want to incur any dishes because I was so tired of doing them. There was just one night where we had a massive amount of dishes, and it's about an hour and a half of doing it, and I was like proofing a video of mine while I was doing the dishes.
Did I have a machine? It's great. You put the dishes in it, and then it cleans them.
Well, this is how massive that was. That was full, and we still had a full sink of dishes, man.
I would have just waited and done another load.
Can't do that with a kid, unfortunately. You have one too. Like, just
yeah. No, we don't get through that many dishes. Not to the point where I would have to wash up for an hour and a half and have the dishwasher on.
Okay. Enough about that. We will go to how do blind people be. I'm pausing because this. Okay. How do blind people brush their teeth? Like, that's a sensory thing. That's tactile. You don't need sight to do this. But would you like to answer that?
Yeah. I imagine the same way that everyone else brushes their teeth. Oh, I tell you what, though, when I cut my hand with the table saw, I've realized that because I cut my left hand and I'm left-handed, and I realized how absolutely left-hand dependent I am. I was trying to brush my teeth, and like, I don't know, it was like I was trying to hold a hammer. And
this story has mainly been told by Simon. Like, how did you? Why? Because when you think non-sighted and table saw, those typically don't mix in the same sentence.
That's what they told me at the hospital. I've been using power tools since I was really young. I mean, my parents were very much of the we'll work out a way and you'll be able to do it kind of thing. And on this occasion, it was just the only reason I cut my hand at all was the blade in the table saw was blunt. I bought a new one, and I thought, I was finishing something, and I thought I'll just finish this, and then I'll change the blade, and it'll be fresh for tomorrow. And I did, and it hit a knot in the wood that I was cutting, and because the blade was blunt, it didn't just cut through that knot. It kicked the wood, and that pulled my hand across and into the blade. And I
fucking
can't. You've seen the pictures. It didn't even hurt though at the time. It felt like I'd bashed my hand, but I knew straight away. I was like, "This is going to be a problem."
Yeah.
So I turned the saw off and I wrapped my hand up in my shirt, and I'm like, right, let's see. And then my shirt started immediately to be soaked. So I quickly went up to the house, but you know when you cut yourself and it drips, this was like a stream, like.
It's like 1 p.m. and I just had lunch.
But my wife was at work, and so I'm thinking, I'm not far from the hospital, but I thought, you're gonna have to get a taxi or whatnot. Now I'm thinking they're not gonna let me in a taxi, bleeding everywhere. So I went around to my next door neighbour, this lovely old lady, and I knocked on the door and she answered it. I said, I've cut my fingers in the table saw. Can you take me to the hospital? And she said, yeah, no problem. And I didn't realise at the time until I was sitting in the waiting room later. So my wife turned up and we were sitting in the waiting room. But when I had done it, at some point I put my hand across my face. So when I knocked on this old lady's door, my face is just absolutely caked in blood. She must have a heart attack. But I bought her some flowers, and she still talks to me. So
I can't imagine. If I had a neighbor just come rapping at my door. Well, first of all, no one does that shit anymore. And if that happened and I just saw like a blood-covered blind person, my first instinct wouldn't be like, oh, you harmed yourself with a table saw. I wonder, though, if there's some kind of law that you would, if you owned a taxi company or you were a taxi driver, that in an emergency situation, like, oh, I don't know, someone bleeding out, that you can't refuse service. Like, is there a good Samaritan law about that?
That'd be interesting to find out, because I've never heard of a taxi driver refusing to, say, take a pregnant lady to the hospital. And that can make a mess, you know?
Yeah. I saw my daughter being born. I was there.
I was there. I didn't see it, but yeah.
I think the expression is eye-opening. All right. We will go to C. This is actually very, very, very related to you. How do blind people cook?
I was hoping this would come up because I can plug my other videos. For a full and extensive answer, please check my other content. Don't check out the other videos until you finish watching this. But they're all there. I explain it in the other channels as well, but I try and keep everything in the same place. Like, but if I'm cooking, actually, this is kind of a lie. When I do the cooking channels, when I do the cooking videos, I set stuff up much more carefully and organized than I do when I'm actually cooking. In real life, I'm kind of just, oh, there's that, rummaging around for stuff. But theoretically, the best way to do it is to lay everything out that you're going to use so you know where it is. If you're learning, start with small recipes, easier stuff, and then build up your talent that way. But I guess that's kind of the same with anybody learning how to cook.
Yeah, you learn how to boil an egg first. Make sure you don't fuck that up.
But yeah, it's one of those things that can be done. You just have to approach it in a slightly different way. Unfortunately, and I've mentioned this before, a lot of people who lose their sight later in life, I think it's probably a crosser between being depressed about losing the sight and just like the overwhelming thing of having to adapt. But a lot of people don't learn new ways of doing things, and then just kind of live out the rest of their lives not doing things. I can't even imagine living like that.
This is actually really interesting. I'm going to stay on the C for just one because we talked about this a while ago. How do blind people cross the street?
Okay, carefully. You know, when you were at school, did you have the green cross code, or is that a British thing?
That sounds very British. I have no idea what that is.
I think actually when it first started, it was the guy, you know, the powerlifter guy who was Darth Vader.
Oh, yeah,
I think he was the original Green Cross man, and he does the thing for kids. It's like look, listen, look again before you cross, basically. Look it up. Look it up at some point. I'm sure it's Darth Vader.
Brit Green Cross man. Oh, what do you know it is, Dave Prose?
There you go.
Prowse.
Prowse. Darth Vader taught British kids how to cross the road. But yeah, essentially it's the same sort of situation, just obviously you can't look, but listen very carefully in both directions and then do that again. I know how I'm going to die though. I'm going to be mown down by an electric car, I think. If I can introduce a conspiracy theory to the mix, I think the UK government is so strapped for cash at the moment. They're trying to cut down on benefits payments by promoting electric cars. And the more electric cars there are, the more blind people are likely to be mown down by silent cars.
So are they that quiet, though? Because I can generally hear them, especially when they're backing up, because they make this very obnoxious, high-pitched whir.
Yeah, I can hear them, and they have. I assume it's the same everywhere, but in the UK they have sound emitters that like add in a bit of extra noise to the mix when they're traveling below a certain speed. The way the internet would, like online forums would have you believe, then blind people would moan a lot online. Sorry, small portion of my audience who didn't come from Brainblade. But yeah, they are quieter than a big diesel or electric, but I don't think it's a huge issue. I hear them coming.
I was just gonna say I would think that it'd be really funny if that became a huge issue as electric cars advance. They just become more silent, and all of a sudden, electric cars have to be built in with speakers to emit driving style noises that you can customize.
You could have like a Ferrari sound, you know.
I don't know. I think I would just have the like dying duck army if I had like, you know, the 2032 Prius. Like
yeah. Yeah, you should be able to customize it. You should be able to customize it. Or like the TIE fighter noise, you know?
Oh god. Like if you hear that from inside the car, could you imagine? Wife would fucking kill me. Let's move on to the D. How do blind people... Hey, we did cycle back to this. Top result. How do blind people dream?
Okay, again, there are two answers for this. I dream in this visually the same way that I see things. So light, dark, shadows. That's my lot. But if you've been able to see in the past, then those memories still exist in your brain. So you can, even if you've literally physically lost both of your eyes, you can still dream in full color, as it were, because your brain has those memories to work with.
In terms of dreaming in general, right? Like there's a lot of emotion, a lot of sensory stuff outside of sight involved. And I'm assuming that that still carries forward, right? Like none of that is affected.
Well, no, like I said, as I only know from my experience, but yeah, I still have sound, smell, and like the emotions brought about by being in a dream state. Yeah,
this is just an alphabetical cheat again, but this is kind of interesting. Further down on the list, it should have been in the C's, but it's in the D's because of do. How do blind people do CAPTCHAs?
CAPTCHAs?
Yeah, you know the online "Are you a robot" test?
Oh, if you look underneath, there's a "Give me an audio challenge" option. And if you click that, then it plays a really, really, really scratchy audio clip of 2 words, and then you have to type those in.
I don't think I've ever noticed that.
Next time, check it out.
Yeah, no, I literally just did, because there are a lot of sites that have you run a CAPTCHA if you use any incognito mode. So I just launched an incognito mode right now and went to a site, and I was just like, there is that button.
And there is Firefox now has a cookie you can install where it just does them for you. But I think actually it's available on Safari as well now.
That's awesome.
Also, I don't know if you do know, but VoiceOver has image recognition now. So it'll pick out sometimes, depending on what it is. If it's a simple capture, like pick the thing with bicycles, for example, and bicycles are the most prominent thing in the capture image, it will tell you which one has bicycles in it.
Yeah, it's trains, buses, crosswalks, and bicycles. Are you a robot? No. I told it to do the thing.
I love sometimes it doesn't even do the capture, does it? It just says, "Are you a robot?" and you click no, and it's like, okay, I believe you.
Do you know how that works?
Isn't it to do with like how you react with the page? Like how quickly you come up to click on it and stuff.
Yeah, no, so it's actually really cool. And so when I actually edit in like the Google search gags in Brainblaze, oh, my dogs are going nuts. When I edit those in, I actually have to animate my mouse to look real instead of just like going in a straight line, but that's what they look for. It tracks your mouse movement because a bot or a script will just move in straight lines versus human beings have jitters. We kind of just like shake the mouse a little bit before we move it over. And it's not a straight line. It's never a straight line. So that's how it kind of knows. Or, if it's just a script that looks for specific attributes or elements on the document itself, it will just do the click event for you. So it looks for that too.
Fair enough.
That'll do us for the D's. So that naturally brings us to E. God. Okay, this is the first result. How do blind people eat, Dave?
Really?
That's the top result.
I don't think, like, if I haven't got any snacks, otherwise I'd do a demo for those people who really want to know. But the worrying thing about those is many people have asked that question. For that to be the top result on Google, there are lots of people out there who think that that's a genuine question that needs an answer.
I mean, I would figure that it's just an articulate version of like how do blind people use certain utensils like chopsticks, because kind of need to see where that is.
Yeah, that makes more sense. I just can't chopsticks, especially now, because my fingers healed very well, but down this, I'm showing the camera, down the side of my finger is still numb, so there's no physical, no data coming from the side of my finger, so I didn't really notice it as a thing till the other day. My little boy's learning to play the recorder, and I had the recorder in my hand and I went to spin it like you would with a drumstick between your fingers, and it just fell on the floor because I was expecting the feedback response of it coming over the top of my index finger and it just wasn't there. So I went to spin it and it just went, just threw it on the floor. And he was like, "What'd you do that for?"
Just imagine your kid like, was this a learning moment for me or you? Okay, an actual serious E. So the E's are okay. I'm gonna read off a list of them because most of these are just odd. So you get to pick for the E's. So we did E. How do blind people eyes look?
I don't know.
How do blind people experience attraction? Because apparently you're all unattractive. How do blind people exercise? How do blind people enjoy life?
That's sad.
Right? How do blind people earn money? How do blind people enjoy movies? How do blind people experience the world? How do blind people experience art? How do blind people echolocate?
See.
Because you can all do it, apparently.
Did you see the video? I covered that, and I don't know if it was one you edited, but I covered that.
Dude, I edited that one. Oh, you don't know. I put in there that I actually did this. But it's not great because I have a toddler and my house is full of Lego. So
oh, Lego. Lego, I imagine for the rest of the world, Lego is the worst thing to step on. But in the UK, we have 3-pin plugs that go upside down like turtles.
Oh, God.
You haven't stepped on something sharp until you've been running to the front door and stepped on a 3-pin plug.
I imagine it's because, like, a localization thing that most UK accessories or peripherals and such that need to get plugged into the wall have a removable plug, so you can adapt it to another country really easily.
No, most stuff you buy over here is sealed plug units. And just thinking what I've got here, I mean, like my Mac is obviously the standard, you can just slide the bottom off and plug something else in. But yeah, most stuff is I've got fuck all with a plug. I've got a kettle back there, but that's not really going to demonstrate the point, because of course it would be. America doesn't have kettles, really, do they?
I do. I've got 3.
You've got everyone else's.
The this is a little bit different because I grew up in an Asian household and we've always had a kettle. We also have water heaters, not like, for your house, but we have these little units that just dispense maybe like 2 liters of water that just boil water. So we've always had something akin to a kettle.
We call those urns.
An urn?
Yeah.
Like what you keep dead people's ashes in?
The same word. But yeah, you're talking like a mini immersion heater, yeah? So you just have it holding hot water all the time and you tap it off.
Exactly.
Yeah, that would be a tea urn, and there you go.
That's so grim.
With a UK plug, if you haven't got anything to go into the earthing pin, the plug doesn't work. But you can't even put the plug into the socket. The earthing pin is slightly longer, so when it goes in, it pushes a little mechanism inside the socket, and it slides back these 2 little plates. So children can't push their fingers into plug sockets and get electrocuted, because unless you have something in the top pin, then there's they're gated inside.
Yeah, man. US plugs are archaic.
Plugs, gun laws.
That's why we can have challenges like the penny challenge.
I remember. Oh, I can't remember what it was I was trying to do, but the earthing pin had snapped off the plug on something that I was trying to use, and in the end, I didn't have a spare one, but I did have one of those plastic tables that go in a pizza, like in the middle of the pizza. So I snapped off one of the legs and jammed it into the earth point on the plug to open up the shutters so I could stick the socket in. Stick the plug into the socket.
I mean, it's genius. So we're going to move on to F. How do blind people find Braille?
That's interesting, because it's putting Braille everywhere is very much a committee thing, the inclusion people have gone, how can we make it look like we're trying? And we'll put Braille everywhere. But the thing is, unless you have Braille that makes a noise, like it's rare that you'll find it, unless nobody really walks around just sweeping the whole walls with their hands just in case they find Braille. Is there Braille there? This was.
Could you imagine seeing that from afar? Like, man, he's really in the walls.
I don't know if you remember this. One of the first Brain Blazes I ever wrote, I told this story, but in the pub I used to run, when we finally got into the kitchen and started clearing it out, because the pub had been used by squatters and stuff for a year before we got it. So cleaning out the oven, and one of the guys who was working with me called me over. He said, come here a minute, check this out. And he said, there's Braille in the back of the oven. I was like, fuck off, is there Braille? What are you on about? So I leaned in, and on the heating element, on the plate for the heating element, it said in Braille, and I promise you this is true, caution, do not touch.
Well, I had to touch it to find out, didn't I? In the emergency room, I have like 5-degree burns on your hand. How'd you even get in there in the first place to get there? Like,
oh yeah, you had to take everything, all the shelves and everything out to even get to it.
Have you ever seen the movie The Core?
Don't think so.
The Core is a great, terrible movie. Like, insanely scientifically inaccurate, but a joyride. There's a scene in there where they're drilling down to the core of the earth.
Okay.
And one of the scientists that actually designed the impeller to drill the damn device down into the center of the earth has to go into the main compartments of where the impellers are to restart. I forget, but he has to go in there and crawl through temperatures of the center of the earth's worth of metal. And he's just crawling through, and that's what I'm imagining it'd be like to try to find that Braille as a blind person servicing your oven that happens to be on. I need to know what I can't touch in here.
There wasn't any Braille on the outside.
I'm gonna ask this just because it's on here. It's the last one that's in the drop down, and it's apparently a theme for these how do blind people questions. Dave, how do people find love?
Well, it's tricky.
Because you don't experience love the way sighted people do.
I'd say when I was, I'm really, really like clueless when it comes to certain social cues, right? So when I was in my late teens and early 20s, I'd be talking to someone at the bar, like talking to a girl, and for like half an hour about nothing, and then they'd be like, oh, "Okay, I'm gonna go now." And then friends of mine would be like, "What is wrong with you?" I'm like, "What are you on about?" "She's been hitting on you for the last half an hour." Like, no. Just having a chat. No. It's a good job my wife was persistent, I tell you, otherwise I'd have been single forever.
I mean, there are a lot of visual cues, like playing with hair or just lip biting or eye movement or some such, but like overall attraction and like sensing it, men are kind of dense about that anyway, aren't we? I mean, in the same vein, someone else asked but how blind people fall in love, because can you?
just have to hope it happens because you won't notice, you know. Well, I won't notice.
I think this is just for very, very, very vain people, because this is like, how do you fall in love if you can't see that they're ugly or not?
I'd say one thing actually, and I've always thought this. I think there is a benefit. Sorry, I'm trying to reach my coffee pot. There is a benefit to being blind, and that is that no matter how hard someone tries as a sighted person, when they look at someone, they've already made biased decisions about that person. Like,
1,000%.
And I will talk to anybody and then make a decision on whether I like that person from having spoken to them, rather than some preconceived ideas I might have had going into that conversation. And I think that's a positive.
It is. And I think this day and age, like, most folks would say that they don't, but we all do. It's an evolutionary or an adaptive response over time that we need to be able to do that if you're sighted, because you have to make quick judgments on safety, because, like shifty people, there's a look to them.
There you go.
Like, there's a reason why, like, a child kidnapper van looks the way it does stereotypically.
Yeah.
So people are the same. Like, you do make a judgment on that. Although I think it's a little bit better to say, like, you can acknowledge how you feel about that look, but be open to finding out more. Because I tell you, my wife is way out of my league. So if she wasn't a little bit open-minded, my child would not have been born.
Did your child take after your wife for you?
Unfortunately, me. So I have a very distinct nose that carries across many, many, many generations. We all married outside of our ethnicity. So we've got Black, Latino, Caucasian, whatnots. And one thing has persisted is our nose. So when my child was born, she got my nose.
Thanks, Dad.
I had a lengthy conversation about this with my wife, too.
Just so you know, our child is going to have my nose.
Yeah, no, it's a very distinct one. Like, if you take a look at, like, my father's side of the family, like, it goes back pretty far that we've been able to track. So we've had, like, artwork done, portraits. We've had portraits, and then it goes to, like, actual photos. The nose carries. So, like, my wife was talking to me. She's like, so how do we want to do our kid's last name, before she was born? I was like, I don't care. Like, the name's not going to matter. Trust me. She's like, oh, why? Don't you want people to know that, like, you're the dad? I'm like, they're going to fucking know. At least she has, like, most of her mom's features. It's just my nose.
My little boy can't get my nose because he could get, like, it won't look like mine, hopefully, when he grows up, because mine's been broken so many times. He would have to have a really, really unfortunate run of luck to end up with my nose.
You do not pre-watch. You do watch videos. The moment they're uploaded after they're recorded, before I or any of the editors touch them. So you probably know that Simon has asked, like, what do you do that like breaks your nose? This was a couple of well, depending on what this goes at, a few videos ago, but like, what do you do?
I don't do anything anymore. Since I had a child, I've been a responsible, functioning member of society. I've done some stupid shit over the years.
I'm gonna choose the last result here, or the last auto recommendation. Dave, how do blind people get married?
Well, I got married in a registry office, which is kind of, I don't know what it's like in America, but it's more common now, I think, for people to get married in a registry office, like going to the courthouse rather than a church situation. But yeah, we went and registered saying that we wanted to get married. We invited people and we got married. How did you get married, Julian?
Oh, well, we had to do that too, because, regardless of what Hollywood likes you to think, you still got to register. What you described was what we would call a city hall wedding, where you just kind of go to city hall, get the certificate or whatever forms you need to sign, get it notarized and whatnot, and, file it. Some people just go to city hall, do that, and that's their wedding. For us, we had a venue down in part of Northern California where I'm from. Not in a church. It was at a wedding venue. I don't know if the UK has this, but there's just certain places that kind of specialize in that, event centers and whatnot, but like a little bit more rustic and like pretty looking instead of like a convention hall. Yeah, it was just that. I used to play violin pretty proficiently in my youth and hadn't touched it in like 20 years, and figured, hey, like it'd be romantic if I played my wife down the aisle to Pachelbel's Bell's Canon, and I did.
That was it? I assume you practiced, yeah?
Kinda. I mean, at the time I was working for a startup, so like I was always busy, and I was living with my then girlfriend, now wife, so it's like I can practice without her knowing.
The violin cannot be practiced quietly, can it?
Yeah. So I think I like got the first note out with precision, and the rest was just a cat dying.
Yeah, you can just blame it on nerves, though, can't you? So.
Oh, well, the good thing is we had a wedding photographer also did the videography. And she kind of just played music over that part. That's part of a montage. So yeah, that's how I got married. Boring, except me trying to attempt the violin after 20 years. Okay, this might actually be a good one for you to answer. Still in the G's, but how do blind people get money?
Well, the bank hold-ups and stuff are a bit more difficult. It's harder to escape when you've got a dog or a long cane.
Could you imagine like Heat, where it's like, hands in the air, are they up yet? Describe what you're doing to me so I can effectively rob you.
There's a possibility I might not be in this camera shot because the camera's stopped tracking, so I've kind of pointed it at me as best I can.
I'll find a way around it.
That's your thing. You'll figure it out.
If Simon's camera can stop recording and it become a thing, then I can do this. All right.
Oh yeah, dude, that was popular. People were like, "You've got to do that all the time." I was reading the comments. I was like, "There's no way he's going to do that all the time." I know how long it took him to do it.
It didn't take me that long at all.
Yeah, you told me it did.
So the initial version of it did. The ending one that I figured out would be a lot better didn't. So I originally did it by hand because I wanted it to look somewhat like, it's brain blaze, so things looking a little scuffed is kind of the thing. But I wanted to make it nicer. So like I wanted to make the jaws like pivot back and forth on an angle and whatnot. In the end, like I just tracked it to the waveform.
Fair enough.
So that kind of worked.
Yeah, let's do H, and then I think we're gonna have to make this into a mini series. Otherwise, no one's gonna watch it to the end.
Yeah. 5 hours later, we're on I.
And Dave isn't married anymore.
What happened in those 2 videos, man? Well, he just like started coming home at like 1 a.m. Okay, so since this is H, I'm going to read them to you and you get to pick it because a lot of these are fun. Dave, how do blind people have kids? How do blind people have fun? How do blind people have dreams? How do blind people have babies? How do blind people handle cash? How do blind people hear? How do blind people hallucinate? How do blind people hear the eclipse? I'm going to stop there because who hears it?
Well, you can combine the first one and the second one.
Please answer the eclipse one.
As far as I'm aware, you can't hear the eclipse.
No.
But,
so dumb.
Maybe you can with like a radio telescope. I don't know, but I can honestly say I've never heard an eclipse.
I can honestly tell you most, if not all, sighted people have never heard an eclipse. Unless it was presented to you by like Morgan Freeman.
Anyway, Patrick Moore.
Oh,
he'd be the guy. Yeah, like Yeltsin.
I edited that video too.
Yeah.
Okay, so
that was when Russia was fun.
Remember when? So of all the assets that I actually make for Blazes, maybe about like a quarter or a fifth of them actually get used. I had so many for Yeltsin and I only used like 3 of them. Or maybe even just like 2. But at one point I animated this thing where he was running around DC in his underwear. And I was like, tensions are high enough as it is. I probably shouldn't.
Yeah, I tell you what, you can put it in here.
No, because we're still trying to monetize you. And also, I'm not looking to have this anywhere on the internet if it's gonna put like an X on my name. I have a family.
I suppose a better answer: how do blind people have kids and how do blind people have fun? Well, you can take the second one and apply it to the first one. That works out. You can have fun whilst
they're not mutually exclusive at all.
The same way that everybody else has kids is the answer.
You mean to tell me that there aren't Braille instructions on women?
Not actually on the women, but there are probably Braille instructions somewhere.
In the future, when they, genetically modify us for any and everything that we would want on our bodies, exceptionally accessible people will have like their CVs, their bios, instructions as like bumps on their body for the blind to feel. This is exit only.
We're gonna have to bring this one to a close and pick up again. Well, it'll be a week later for everybody else, but whenever you're free.
I mean, you tell me when you're free and I'll make the time.
Okay. It'll be sometime next week, I would imagine. Thanks for coming on. It really has been fun. For everybody watching, please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And check out my Buy Me a Coffee page, which I will try and remember to link in the description.
And if you don't want to comment anything, just leave your favorite emoji for that engagement.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't have to be a nice comment, just a comment.
All right.